So as athletes, I find that a lot of the time we get caught up in the really small details and we miss the bigger picture. When you're thinking about refueling after your training sessions, I like to use this handy little kind of 3 T's. So the most important thing that you want to nail every time consistently is the total amount of energy that you're taking back in. So you don't want to be under fueling every day and you don't want to be over fueling. So both of those will kind of get you off of your goals. So figure out the best and right amount of calories for you for the day. So that can be anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 to 3,500, depending on the athlete and depending on your session. And then kind of break that down per meal so you know throughout the day about how much you're supposed to be consuming. So once you've kind of nailed that down and every day you're making sure that you get the right amount of foods and the right quantities, then you want to look at the types of foods. So what kinds of carbohydrates are you ingesting, what kinds of proteins, and what kinds of fats? As you know from my videos, you know that I love all the green leafy vegetables and sweet potatoes and yams and squash and things like that, but then also the fish, and you want to really look at what nutrients you need for your body for that day. Are you low in iron? Are you low in vitamin D? Do you need more omega-3s? So those all fall under the types of foods. And only after you've nailed the first 2 do you really then need to worry about the timing. So the timing is really session-specific, person-specific. It's not that 30-minute window that if you don't immediately get your protein shake in, your whole workout is just gonna be for nothing and your body's gonna shut down. So in this next section, I wanna talk a little bit more about how to know if you need to really pay attention to that 30-minute window or not. All right, so when is that magic recovery window, that 30 to 60 minutes after you finish your training session? When is that important? There are 4 kind of scenarios I want you to remember. So the first one is if you're gonna be training multiple times in a 24-hour period. So if you have a morning session and an evening session, you wanna make sure that you actually do get some food in within that 30 to 60 minutes. The next one is if you're gonna be training longer than 2 hours. So if you're out for a really long run or a really long bike ride, getting home and getting some of that fuel in within 30 to 60 minutes, it's important. The third one is if you're coming into a session from an overnight fast. So a lot of us train in the mornings. First thing, we don't always eat before we train. So if you've gone into that training session without eating, then make sure you hit that 30 to 60 minute window afterwards. The final one is if you're trying to make kind of those more muscular body composition goals. So if you're trying to build muscle, if you're really working on strength, or if you had an intense strength session, then that 30 to 60 minutes afterwards is important. So remember, if you're training, which I know all of you are, it's important to refuel afterwards. And it's important to refuel with the right foods. You also want to make sure that there are some scenarios when that 30 to 60 minute window really is important. Otherwise, you just want to make sure that you get a great meal within 2 hours or so of finishing your training.